My name is Tariq Belhassen. I am from EHPA. I am in charge of the heat pump key mark secretariat, and I'm also in charge of the quality label. And we are going to speak about certification today and the importance of the certification in the context of having a larger and a wider market, European market. So it is important to try to align as much as we can. And to illustrate the certification, I will speak about the key mark as a brand. What is the key mark concept. And then I will speak about the key mark specifically for the heat pump sector. I will then explain briefly the certification process and the scheme recognition, and then we'll jump to the benefits of the third-party certification and what's the impact of a lack of such certifications. So what you need to know about the key mark, it's a voluntary scheme. It's a European quality mark for products and services. It is owned by the European Standardization Organization. And the quality mark is granted not just a piece of paper, but following a certification process that will demonstrate compliance to eco-design and European standard. And this compliance will be delivered by an empowered certification body. So the key mark quality, when it was developed almost 2 decades ago, it was really to cover any product or even a service. The only condition for the key mark to be established is that there is a European standard that can cover the specific product or the specific service. So as a result, the quality program key mark is covering different products. It can be a valve, a radiator valve, it can be solar equipment, it can be insulation equipment, and of course, heat pumps. Excuse me. So today, the key mark is quite developed. I told you it was 2 decades ago that it was implemented by the SEN and Senelec, and today you can see that we have the thermal insulation and the heat pump key mark that is catching up and almost passing now the thermal insulation in terms of number of certificates that are issued. So the key mark is very strong for our sector in the heat pumps. We have also the solar thermal products, thermostatic, radiator valves, and you have the thermal insulation. So now we will focus on the key mark specifically for heat pumps. So the scope of the key mark for heat pumps is clearly for products that are electrically driven, and this is for cooling and heating space, and for domestic hot water, and the combination of the two. And the key mark certification program covers the different technologies that you are very familiar with. So it's the air to water, air to air, and brine to water. So in general, the testing types, of course, we will see the standards that we will refer to in the key mark, but the testing types in general that we perform through a third-party testing, I will speak about it later on, needs to be compliant to the requirements of the Eco-Design Lot 1, 2, and 10. And depending on the application and the type of the heat pump, you can have some specific tests about the space heating, the space cooling, the hot water tests, the sun power tests, and the operating tests. So as I said earlier, these tests are conducted by laboratories that are ISO 17025 accredited. So only accredited laboratories empowered by certification bodies can do the tests and have their test reports valid. And for the certification bodies who are empowering, who are accrediting, the laboratories, the certification body but this needs to be ISO 17065. So for specifically the laboratories that we are using in the key mark scheme, as I said, they are 17025, and they go through different processes as dictated by the ISO 17025. So they need to go through the competencies, the calibration of the laboratories, the documentation, traceability of the test reports, and all the documentation, the complaints. So all this is required for each lab performing testing for the heat pump key mark certification according to an ISO 17025. Today we have 29 laboratories, and the decision is made by 11 certification bodies. So the certification bodies are 11, are around Europe and only in Europe. So you need to be implemented in Europe to be designated as a certification body. And the laboratories are global. So you can have a laboratory that can be in Europe or outside Europe, but still needs to be empowered, accredited by a certification body, and of course to be ISO 17025. In terms of results of all this setup of KeyMark, we have today more than 169 certificate holders. We have more than 2,400 certificates, and we have more than 9,000 models of heat pumps that are already on the market and certified, and most of all, monitored year after year about their quality and their performance. So the KeyMark is managed by different groups. So we have the scheme group, the steering committee group, and we have the secretariat for the KeyMark. And from these groups, the scheme group, the steering committee, we have a representation of manufacturers, testing laboratories, certification bodies, and we have also representation from the European Heat Pump Association. So all these groups are still, at the end, supervised by the CEN, and it's called the KeyMark Management Organization, KMO, on behalf of CEN, that are monitoring the activities of these groups. And when there is, for example, a modification in the rules, the CEN has to approve this modification of a rule, of any rule. So now the KeyMark, the certification process and the recognition. So the certification process for the KeyMark is a classical process. So this is a third-party certification where you start to apply, and you approach a certification body, you approach a testing lab, then there will be a decision on how to organize the family of products in types and subtypes to do the testing. Then an audit, because there is an audit, so there is a factory on-site inspection, and during this audit we will designate the samples to be tested and to be shipped to the laboratory. Then the laboratory will make the tests and present the test report to the certification body. The auditor will present also the audit report, and the certification body will review the test report and the audit report and make the certification decision. So this is the classical certification process for a heat pump KeyMark. What is important to mention is that point number 5 is that there is an annual monitoring. So every year we will have to proceed to an on-site inspection of the production location. We will also proceed to some testing, depending how the testing was agreed with the certification body and the test laboratory. You will need maybe to do some other testing through the process. But this is a continuous certification. There is no expiration date. It's a continuous certification, and there is, to sustain this continuous certification, you need to have an annual monitoring. This is really the third-party certification. As a manufacturer, you will have to introduce some data of your equipment into the database. This data will be compared to the test results and will be reviewed by the certification body. There is also within the database a verification tool to see if there is any inconsistency. So there is no data that is in the database that is not consistent, verified or checked according or verified with a test in the lab. So this is very important to know. So as part of the recognition, we have, for example, this direct recognition for MCS for the UK, this database. So when you obtain your key mark certification, you can immediately upload all your certified products, characteristics to the database, and it is recognized for subsidies in the UK. The same with quality label. You have also a direct recognition of the key mark from the quality label. We had in the past a lot of discussions about how to recognize, but now there is a clear alignment of what the quality label national commissions are asking, committees are asking, in terms of reports, in terms of information related to the products. So there is a clear alignment. So with your key mark, you can go and ask for a quality label. For your information, we have a webinar in October, the 24th, where we are going to compare, we will make a parallel between the key mark and the quality label to avoid any confusion, to make sure that you understand that these are complementary and that the key mark recognizes the quality label, because we know that in some markets, the quality label is required. So in terms of recognition, what is important to understand, if you followed some of my previous slides, presentations in the past, I was referring to recognition, but now I say reference. So it means that some countries are referring to key mark when it is needed. So when it is not needed, it doesn't mean that key mark is not recognized. So it is very important to understand it's a reference. So some countries, to not pick Poland, is referring today to the key mark. And maybe in the future they will not need it anymore. So they will not refer to it. But as far as a country, a scheme, a subsidy scheme is looking for a third-party certification, they can refer to key mark, because key mark is not a text of law. It's not a directive. It's a voluntary scheme. So again, when a quality third party is needed to support a scheme or an initiative or a regulation in the future, they can refer to the key mark. So today you will have countries, if you pick Italy, that is not referring to key mark, because there is no need today in Italy. They didn't decide to regulate or to develop a subsidy scheme for Italy referring to a third party. So in terms of benefits and the certification itself, if we look at the global picture that we can call a conformity assessment, in a conformity assessment, it can be an audit, it can be a testing, it can be a validation, verification, it can be a certification. So this is what we call a conformity assessment, and it is clear that applications of conformity assessments to products such heat pumps can only increase the trust and confidence that is required or desired characteristic. So this is very important, and a conformity assessment can only enable an access to a market for a business that can be large or even smaller. So now we ask the question, what a non-harmonized certification means to an industry sector. So it is clear, as I said, if we align to a common certification scheme, then the industry is exposed to an equally. It is equal. We are referring to equal set of global and harmonized requirements. So if you refer to a common certification, all the manufacturers for a specific region or country will use the same reference. And you will see the conclusion of this first sentence. At the opposite, if we stay away from a unique harmonized certification scheme, this will create problems to the industry sector. So if we start to go in a fragmented certification market, the impact will be important, economic impact, we will raise barriers, we will have difficulties to circulate goods, and the consumer will be impacted at the end as well, because there is less choice for the consumer to choose an equipment. And at our level, when we talk about certification and certification bodies, technically, it will raise the reference marks of solid, agreed performance and quality requirements. So the reference that we set up will be raised, because every country will start, or region, or will start to develop their own requirements, and this is detrimental to the sector. So as a summary, the common certification, harmonized certification, will benefit both users and the businesses. For the users, as I said just the slide before, it will give an opportunity for to the end user to choose a product, to compare a product, because all the products that are certified were certified against the same criteria. So he can easily choose. If there is the mark, the logo that the key mark certified, he knows or she knows that the equipment that he needs to choose or she needs to choose were tested the same way. So he can really look and think about his choice in confidence. And most important for the end user as well, buying an equipment that is certified, give him the confidence that the product is of quality, that it will perform the claims that the manufacturer is claiming on the package, in the advertising. So this is very important for the consumer and user. We know that the consumer or the end user is ready to pay up to 25% more to have a product that is certified. For the businesses, it is clear that the advantage here is that they can be compliant to regulatory. We know that there are eco-design updates coming. We know that the energy performance in buildings are also going to be discussed. So we need to make sure for the manufacturer that we are referring to the same common aligned certification scheme. Otherwise, it will be very complicated. And the last point, again, for the manufacturer is that the certification will enable the market entry to these manufacturers because they are certified. So this is also important. The last point for the businesses is the third-party independent conformity. We see always the certification as a cost, but we never see long-term the impact on a certified, on-site, audited, regularly manufacturing location. So we look at the certification as a cost, but we need to look at it at completely the opposite long-term. So this is my conclusion for my presentation. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.